Ah, I'm getting better at this.
It only takes a couple times.
Yeah. And if I go a little less than a year between doing the lives, I might actually remember how to do it.
Yeah, and it helps when you host them more because you get
Yeah.
to see the behind the scenes, so to speak.
Hi, Bobby.
I have been playing with Canva, and it's been fun. I'm not sure if you guys have ever used it.
I use Canva.
Oh, you do?
I do.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn the interface, but playing around.
It was challenging at first because I was not only learning Canva, but I was also designing my own book covers for the first time.
Yeah.
And going into paperback and case laminate and jackets. And I've gotten really good at all of it.
That's what I was looking at because Canva's like, oh, you can do book covers. And I'm like, these look like ebook covers, not book covers.
You
start out with the ebook cover, and then you figure out how thick your book's going to be based on the
pages,
all your formatting pages. You can get a template from KDP, either when you're uploading, or they have a separate site you can go to that'll calculate that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to kind of design the rest of it, where you paste that front cover one on.
Yeah.
Figure out what your back cover is going to be, and then do your spine.
I really like it when the image wraps around.
What's that?
I like it when the image wraps around.
See, I create a flat first.
Yeah.
I know it's probably going to be bigger than the final. I do the whole flat, have that wrap around. And then when I've got that, then I know what part is the ebook cover. And then from that big flat, I go into paperback for both KDP and Ingram Spark because they can be different.
Mm-hmm.
The case laminate for KDP. And then at Ingram, I do the case laminate, but it's more solid color.
Mm-hmm.
I do the jacket wrap. So I have multiple formats going.
I'm kind of early because it'll probably be realistically February or March before I could even possibly have all the words done for the book. But I have a working title, and I figured it's better to start playing with it now so that it's not stressful later.
You learn all the kinks and the quirks now, so that when you're at that final point, because I'm pretty quick at it now. I know what I'm doing, and I know how to format it, and I know where to get the template. It's annoying from Ingram Spark because when they give you a template, they do it in PDF only.
Okay.
And you can't put that in Canva. It won't take the PDF. It would only take a JPEG or something. But I know how to convert it. So if you get to that point,
okay,
let me know. We'll tell you how to do it, and it works just fine.
See, I'll use the PDF or a PNG of the format, and I'll do that in an image manipulator like Paint.net, where you could do multiple layers, and you could have your layers visibility be reduced, so you can get the template and see it reduced. So now you see exactly where everything's going to land, especially when you're placing that whatever you're doing for your spine.
Yeah, the spine
really makes it help.
That is annoying. What I do over Canva is I get the PDF. This is completely off topic, but here we go. I get the PDF from Ingram Spark. I convert that PDF into either a JPEG or a PNG. Then in Canva, I click on, Poppy, if you're familiar with Canva, I click on like Start Project.
Yeah.
And it says Edit Photo.
Mm-hmm.
Then you select that PNG or the JPEG that you just created, and you open it up and you trim it right down to your actual template on the PDF, and import that in. And now you have the template and everything. It's got the lines, it's got everything that you need, but you just have to get that format that'll load up. So
yeah, that'll be super fun when I get to that point. But I figure for now I've got like images that I've been pulling, stock images, and I'm playing with like various Facebook reels and things like that, and seeing which things can be Facebook reels and could potentially also be a cover. So
it's fun.
Hey, for any of our viewers, as you're watching this, please share it out to all your friends. Especially if you know of any of them, they're sci-fi friends.
I see Patrick Johnson here. Patrick F. Johnson, sci-fi writer.
Yeah. Well, I gotta see if they're not mutuals with me. I'm not sure I can invite them.
It says I can invite them. You want me to try?
Yeah, give it a shot.
Okay.
See, I'm lucky enough that so my wife made my cover with Affinity,
It won't work.
and Affinity works really well. It's not as expensive as Photoshop, but it is expensive.
Well, yeah, for my cover image for the book and for everything I'm using right now, my son helped me with Photoshop, and like I don't know if I want to deal with that learning curve. Like I'm not going to be a professional designer.
She enjoyed it. Gotta let the dog in here. She's gonna sit here and whine all night. She liked making it with Affinity. It took her a little bit of time to get used to how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's any software.
Yeah.
I know the people that are straight up Photoshop people that are fantastic at it. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's powerful. I just don't know if I want to deal with it.
Yeah.
I am visually not good.
Yeah.
And so I needed something that was going to be that I didn't have to get into the fine detail. My best friend is actually a graphic designer, and she did a lot of my covers before. She's honestly kind of going through a crisis of faith in her own skills, so she's kind of but she used to show me different versions of covers, and she, so which effect do you like better, A or B? And I felt like I was at the optometrist. I'm like, are they different?
Yeah.
They're very important, but I never saw the little fine details that she saw, but I was always like, it's pretty. I like it.
It's amazing what they do, because it's like, minimalist covers are in, and I was playing around with that, and I'm like, when I do a minimalist cover, it just looks so flat. How do they do that? How do they make it like pop?
Hello,
Hey,
Patrick F. Johnson.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Do I sound okay?
You do.
You have to do your official introduction though.
Which one?
Every video. You started off every video with it.
Oh, the one that goes, "Hey TikTok," that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
No.
Okay.
All right. So I stole from Patrick, so I'll start mine. I'm like, hey nerds, Mike Conley, sci-fi and fantasy author here. Now I don't have his tone, his cadence, or his well-known. Everybody has had duoed it. So, oh my God, my dumpster juice, please stop.
What is
so? We do have a question, and I want to make sure we'll come back to that. The covers question, we'll come back to that once we get introduction done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Short answer, yes, but we'll come back to it because we have a big topic we want to talk about. Help me look for. We had another gentleman who wanted to join us, and if someone says, "Hey, I'm here to join," make sure I see it. If I miss it, just in case. No, huh?
What's his name?
It was Steampunk Wordsmith.
Okay.
But his other account.
It's his other account. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Okay.
But it looks very similar.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to get us started here, we could do a round of introduction, but really not many people here. So I think I want to skip that because we have a big conversation, I think, coming here in a minute. Poppy and I started this the other day on a Discord server, and we had a great conversation for an hour or so. And it really brings up a lot of grandiose ideas, but we'll try to start at the simple part first. The conversation we had, and Poppy, correct me if I misstate it. The conversation we had was really kind of was born out of some gatekeeping we've seen from another author here on TikTok. Is kind of the impetus of this. But going back from that is really we were starting to talk about what is science fiction, what is things like space opera, how do our customers know what that is, and I actually find I am informing people of what space opera is all the time. So it's really clear that a lot of people don't know, even if they like it. So like people like Firefly, Expanse, Star Trek, other things, they just don't know it's space opera. And so the conversation was really starting about how do we kind of take this back. There's been years of people in sci-fi fighting about what sci-fi isn't. How do we change that conversation to say what sci-fi is, and how do we make that feel more inclusive, and then how do we go from there?
Well, I think
Go ahead.
I think one thing to know is that, these people that are trying to say that, well, science fiction is stuff that could only plausibly happen. I'm quoting now. But they forget there's some seriously classic sci-fi that would and could never finish or never happen. Ender's Game. There is not a single thing that Ender can do, especially after, book one, once he's the speaker for the dead, that could ever plausibly happen, right?
Right.
Dune. Period. Just period. And I mean, it's the two that come straight to mind, right off the bat, besides Star Wars, right? Everybody knows Star Wars. Who's going to try to say Star Wars isn't, yeah.
We know who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you saw what I said. That guy says that Isaac Asimov isn't sci-fi. Like,
Which Isaac Asimov was part of the group that actually tried to redefine what sci-fi was. So that's kind of funny.
Well,
But
what
he's
sci-fi
right
is?
he's consistent because he's saying anything space opera isn't sci-fi. So it's a consistent approach, at least.
Well,
What I noticed is that his definitions of sci-fi very tightly define his work. Isn't that interesting?
it's funny.
Yeah, the definition is designed to solidify his position in science fiction.
Yeah.
I noticed
there
that.
are different ways to look at defining a genre. We can look at it from a book standpoint, or we can look at it from more of a popular, what do people think of when they think of sci-fi? Look at TV tropes. When most people think of sci-fi, they're not going to go to some literary definition. They're just going to know what in their gut feels like sci-fi. And what in people's guts feels like sci-fi when you ask just an average Joe is going to be anything that includes a huge set of tropes that we associate with sci-fi. And who's to say that those things are not sci-fi? I don't think that people have a right to make that call.
Patrick, are you familiar with any of the posts we're talking about from this one gentleman?
I am totally in the dark. I have no idea who you're even talking about.
I don't really want to amplify that signal. That was actually why I pulled my response down, because I was I'm amplifying this. I don't want to do that.
You may be familiar with many years ago, Isaac Asimov and other authors in a certain organization. When Star Wars came out, and around that time, there was really this group of people that were hardcore science fiction fans, seeing this thing that is Star Wars and saying, that's not what we do. And so there was a convergence there to say that we're changing what we do. We're keeping the name science fiction, and we're going to have the abbreviation SF. And then this sci-fi thing is something else, but it's not science fiction. And that's really where this gentleman's notion was born from. And I've seen this a bit. And there's a lot of people in that SF camp that really kind of equates to modern day when you think of hard sci-fi or mundane sci-fi. It's really those two genres kind of put together in that camp that they're calling SF.
Now, I would like to interject, because when you and I were... Oh, go ahead. You answer, then I'll come back in.
Yeah.
I was going to say, someone, maybe later just send me a message with this person's name so I can look at it.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the whole genre thing, so who cares?
Well, our care in it isn't so much about trying to say what is or what isn't, but how can we get people informed on it? And how can we get
Well,
more people to enjoy it?
How do we grow our
that may be what you want. I have a little bit different. So when
Go
you and
for
I
it.
talk, like there's a little bit of a nuance to difference to what I was trying to accomplish. But so yeah, but you may speak about what you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So what I'm trying to accomplish is actually a lot smaller in scope, I think. Like I don't actually care about necessarily like redefining this, because when it comes to the genre, like when you actually look at the things that are being traditionally published in the last 10 years, the entire the publishing industry for sci-fi is adapting. And they are publishing much more inclusive sci-fi from a lot of these major so change is happening, and that's great. What I'm more concerned with is how, as indie authors who are writing what I'm calling alternative sci-fi, where we don't gatekeep, we let various things in. How can we band together with maybe a hashtag so that people who are looking here on TikTok to support indie authors and they know I like this stuff? Like, is there a way that we can form that community and maybe band around a hashtag? That was just an idea, so that we can help people find our stuff. That was kind of my much more niche goal.
I agree with that, but I kind of lump all of it together with that. So yeah, I go a little bigger. She went more refined as a start. Um, but it's a lot of those things are kind of related. And I do want to touch on one thing. What I've heard a lot from women authors is a lot of the old school groups around sci-fi have big pushback against female authors.
It's really
More and
common
more it's
for
published.
people to step in and kind of, it's difficult for women to be leaders in the space because people tend to step in when we try to start things and take them over.
So that's what I want to also amplify by this. We want to say we want women in. We want women to take part in this. We want women to be authors, and we want women as readers. And so that's part of this whole idea with, thinking about this alt sci-fi. If we were to try to do something like that, to say it's not just about we're open to every genre, but we're open to be inclusive of, race, gender, all the other things that have been historically just white male.
Right. Well, and I think that they're actually kind of more intertwined than people necessarily like think about at first blush. Because if you think about the things that are approved sci-fi, and the types of covers, the messaging that we have in sci-fi, it's very masculine. The things that are okay are very masculine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy those elements of sci-fi a lot. But the things that tend to get thrown out are anytime you're not using dark blues and greens and spaceships on the cover, if you include fantasy elements, if you have too much love in there, if you focus too much on relationships instead of things and technology. Those are the things that tend to get women thrown out of like the various awards. They get knocked out of sci-fi into fantasy categories pretty regularly, for including these more fantastical things, and it gets downgraded to speculative fiction or soft sci-fi or fantasy. That's it.
And that, I agree, and that's not what I'd like to see, and I don't think modern fans want to see that either.
I don't think so either.
I think that it's, like you said, it is starting to change with, specific authors. There's a lot of newer authors that are coming out that are starting to show frankly, the badass female trope, right? I mean, I'll take the one that I've been listening to right now. Expeditionary Force. I'm on book 11. I've been just binging them. But he's got several awesome female Marines and soldiers and whatnot in there, and they do great. And it is, you kind of want to call X-Force a hard sci-fi, but at the same time, there's a lot about the relationships between the crew, right?
Yeah, I think it kind of straddles a little bit. Like it definitely brings more of the because I mean it's classified as a space opera, and it definitely brings more of that relationship to it. You mentioned badass female. I like seeing the badass female too, but I would love to see it be okay for someone to not be an autistic scientist, a badass female, or a sexy lamp. I want to see other types of really great female characters in sci-fi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've also got, well, I don't know if you would call her, autistic scientist, but you've got clumsy weird girl from the Skyward series.
Oh wait, there's Manic Pixie Dream Girl too. We can't forget that one.
Oh.
All right, now you got him. All right, I can say Firefly again with that one, but there's, I agree.
And the bombshell courtesan, that's allowed too in sci-fi.
Yeah. No, I agree, and as an author, I strive to write these other characters. I hope I can get them well. But bringing this back around, right? Ideally, we're trying to find a way to get in front of customers to help them find stuff that they would like, that they would know falls in this category of not this other group of things that we're hearing from this other side of the sci-fi land, and this other group that's getting louder and louder on TikTok.
Yeah.
So, how do we do that? We're not all the famous authors of the world here, but I think we could start doing things and bringing people along with us if we wanted to.
I think that's going to be part of the struggle, is that, we're not Brandon Sanderson. We're not, hey, I'm Brandon Sanderson, fantasy author. I'm going to throw out a sci-fi book and it's going to sell 10 million copies on day one.
Which is why I was, rather than trying to change the whole genre, which is changing on its own, it doesn't actually need us to do that for it.
Right.
I wanted to focus more on TikTok in particular to start. And the way I was going to approach it was, I know I have run in, because they're following me, I've run into quite a few authors that are writing what I would consider alternative sci-fi, marginalized authors writing blended stories. And I was just going to start like a call for people to start doing some live chats. I think rather than like us deciding like this is what we're going to do, like I want to open a conversation first, because I think that's how we're going to garner support.
So, and that's fair.
I want to address something and just kind of a quick sidebar funny thing. Jeremy just said he's never read a Brandon Sanderson novel. And
that's sad.
I hadn't shared this with you guys, but I'm more than just a little bit of a fan.
Nice.
Excellent.
Things happen. Yeah.
Oh, I am not embarrassed by it. I love it.
I love me some Brandon Sanderson. I loved Mistborn. And one of the things I love most about him is he's really open about the fact that he struggles with writing female characters, and he works really hard at it. And I think that I really appreciate that. Like, he's like, hey, this is hard for me. It's not my best skill. And I'm like, awesome. Like, way to be really transparent about that. So.
And then he goes on to say, so I sat and interviewed a woman for 48,000 hours before I started. But I mean, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of his. I like following his, especially his lessons, his classes and stuff, because it really helped me structure my books.
Magic, particularly, like he does such a good job laying out exactly like what you need to do if you're doing soft versus hard magical systems. I love those.
Yeah. Anyway, quick sidebar over.
I've never read him either. So.
Oh.
I've read some when he finished off Robert Jordan's work. I've read some there, and then I picked up one or two books, but I haven't done like the whole set of series on his. I plan on doing it. I think I'm got my son one of his first books that's appropriate for his age, and I'll read it with him. I like his writing. I just haven't had time to go through his catalog.
I reread Stormlight every year.
Really?
Twice.
Like, I've been trying to read it's A Way of Kings, right? Is the trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, I can't because it makes me so sad. Like, the tone of those novels, like, they're great, but I just get depressed when I listen to it on audio, and so I can't. I haven't been able to finish it.
The trick dealing with Michael Kramer's voice is bumping it up to 1.5 times.
Okay.
Michael Kramer has a very slow cadence. He's got a fantastic voice.
But even like voice aside, like these are not happy stories.
Oh no. And that's why I love them.
Break my heart. Do it.
Well, it's just like unrelenting gloom in the first book.
Yeah. That's why the end of it is so fantastic. But
Mistborn's
So-
great.
Hi.
You're saying hi. Right, that's why I needed you to be quiet. Okay.
I finally got, or my wife finally got ours to stop screaming up there. So I think for now, until he wakes up again.
That's why I'm happy to have a basement. Mine are.
There. So I think for now, until he wakes up again.
That's why I'm happy to have a basement. Mine are a little older, and they scream in the basement, and it kind of just stays down there.
I think I'm
Need a
the old
basement.
one here. I mean, my kids are adults.
Mine is
I started late. I
almost
think we're the
19.
same age.
Okay. I'll feel a little better.
I have a 30-year-old stepson.
Mm.
So big.
I have a 2 and a 6-year-old.
Yeah, I started really late. I have 11 and 13.
I have a 20.
Mine's just finishing college first semester. Computer
Low on
science.
Pop-Tarts. We only got
I have a
4
24 and a
packs.
30-year-old. So, yeah. And that's not Step. That's me. I
Yep.
Yeah.
gave birth.
Patrick, you got to go to the store and get more Pop-Tarts, man. That's
I heard that.
That's in
Yeah, we only have 4 packs left.
Oh, no.
that's
That'll
only
last
Soon to be.
exactly 4 days. No.
No.
I didn't know we had any. Soon to be 3 packs.
They'll be gone tonight.
Coming in the morning. Yeah. So anyway, as far as the whole conversation, you got me questioning if I'm even a science fiction writer.
Well, that was kind of where a lot of us were questioning at one point this week.
Well, I don't question it because, like, if it quacks like a duck, like I was saying, like, what decides, right? Like, what decides what sci-fi is? I think it's, like, the popular opinion of what sci-fi is. And since we have so much of it on TV, people are like, oh, yeah, that's sci-fi.
It should be.
I was just spaceships, and space marines. If you had those 3 things, you're good. Like,
Well, see, I have a saga, right? I have 8 books. And in those 8 books is really probably, if you squished it all together, maybe 3/4 of one book that takes place off Earth. It's all mostly on our planet, and it's in this century. So I don't have a whole lot of visiting other planets, and there's some spaceships a little bit, but
it's not required for it to be sci-fi. Like Michael Crichton has written some excellent, like Andromeda Strain has no space marines, but I would call it sci-fi.
Yeah.
I think the problem is a lot of some of the previous fights have been about what is that specific tag, that one genre you're in, to make sure you meet that one qualification that we call it sci-fi. And it's more of, from a popular standpoint, there's a whole lot of things it could be. And if it checks any one of those boxes, it's sci-fi. And you might check 15 of those boxes, and you might check a few boxes for fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's not
Every
so bad. Go ahead.
Every one of my books has aliens. Is that good enough?
Good enough for me.
You got
Got it.
aliens. You're good.
All right.
To
So
me,
you're
science
sci-fi with
fiction-
aliens.
Yeah, I mean, I have some aliens. To me, science fiction is what answers the question, what if?
Yeah.
What if we had first contact? What if there was a virus that took over the planet? What if in 200 years we're able to travel into space? What do we find? What if? That's it.
The speculative part of it.
Yeah, I can't think of what I would define as science fiction. If I considered each one of them, there is a what if question for every single one of them. In whatever media that is, whether it's a movie or TV or books or whatever, it answers that question of what if. I don't know if that falls as neatly if you're looking at like fantasy fiction or fantasy sci-fi. There may be some, but then when you switch over to fantasy, it's not necessarily that hard what if, because you're in a completely different, oftentimes a different.
It's more assume this is true.
It's a what?
It's more assume this is true. Now let's play in it.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's not clear cut.
Right.
What if we could do this, or what if this happened? You know, and I don't know. It's to me, the difference between fantasy and sci-fi just depends on whether or not, just how made up the planet is. Because, you know, we make up planets that our people go to versus the planet that's made up is the one you start off on. Right?
But it doesn't have to be. You could start off on this planet Earth and still be a sci-fi novel. Right. You could stay on this planet Earth and still be sci-fi.
Exactly. And
because it can be about technology. It can be about advancements in science that we're dealing with on our planet. So
that's exactly what hard sci-fi is.
Yeah.
Is there, a lot of what hard sci-fi is they talk about advancement.
I found that writing contemporary science fiction, when you're using present day, like New York City, Washington, D.C., you don't have to describe it because everybody knows what it looks like. So you're saving a lot of time on world building.
That's true.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
The whole idea of urban fantasy, right? But now urban science fiction.
Yeah. I did similarly.
That's why
my series is set in the 2050s, so it's not that far from right now. It's on Earth. There's a lot about Earth that is similar. Yes, there's tech and there's things that are different, but there's still a very real feel for being on Earth and in the former country of the United States, because all of that is done away with. But that's something that I've had people say to me that aren't necessarily deep sci-fi readers. They don't do a lot of reading, but they've read mine, and they said that they could because it was familiar. So Patrick, that's kind of what you're saying. Like, you don't have to try to create a whole new tapestry.
You don't have to world build.
Yeah, I mean, there's
easier.
I grew up in New York. I have to deal with that. But other than that, the forests of Pennsylvania are the same, and the ocean is the same, and so that helps. That helps people not feel quite so overpowered by what might be your world building. I was asking a question about this on my page, just kind of asking people what held them back from maybe trying science fiction. Like, what did they consider it to be that they didn't want? And some people really said they didn't want to get lost in the world building. So sometimes you can make it easier for them, and but it's all science fiction. It's all
well, and that Earth thing is
secondary
very true,
to me, though. World building.
I have half of it in like an alien galaxy, and half is on Earth, modern day Earth. And like you're right, Patrick. Like, it is like maybe 3 times easier to get those scenes out that are taking place on Earth, as opposed to where I have to like you have to do the world building, but you have to sprinkle it very carefully, like you were saying, Gail, so that people don't end up going like, I don't want to read this.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. What I tend to do with my planets is I do all the ships have an observatory, and you see it briefly whenever you show up, and then we don't talk about it because as humans we have to go to Earth-like planets, and we know what an Earth-like planet looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can't
that's the approach I take in space opera too, because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing too much world building. It's about the story, and so I lead them into a point that I give very brief details, and then let them fill in the rest.
So,
but when you think about some of the other
something...
ones, they do more. Some of the other genres within sci-fi will do a lot of world building.
Right. So JC Fuller had a good question for us. It was asking about how we come up with alien descriptions. Do we keep keep alien or different? JC, what I tend to do personally is I ask that what if question I look at a cat and say, well, what if cats were the progenitor species of sapiens? Or what if, insert here, right? What if rhinos became the sapient species? Would they just be big old barbarians running around? That's what I do. It makes it easier, makes it a whole lot less time consuming.
Yeah. I don't want to get too much into it because it's actually a spoiler for my whole series. But I just described them. They're humanoid, and some of them have characteristics, like some of them have silvery skin and bluish hair, and I'll just like lightly sprinkle in enough that people can imagine like, oh, this is different, but they're humanoid, and that's as far as I go. I do have one other race of aliens that's like kind of squid-like and very alien, and I describe that differently. But
I asked the same. Sorry, go ahead.
Later in my series was when I really had to delve into different aliens that they would be coming in contact with, and I actually have been saving on Facebook. You would see these lists of strange genetic anomalies in the human race, kind of thing, right? And I would save these, and I actually went through them, and sometimes I would pull whatever it was and incorporate that into what alien race that I was dealing with. Anything from different fingers, different facial structures, different all kinds of descriptions that could link to humanity, but made them different. And how would their planet be different to have them develop that way? This is where I'm really thankful that my daughter is a scientist and a biologist, because I ask her a lot of questions about like, is this feasible? But that's what I did, is like, and I have them all saved because when I go back into this saga, it's further down the timeline, and there's a lot more activity and connection to a lot more races. So I'm going to need a lot of reference points. Right now, at the beginning of this, it's not, because it's kind of us going, what?
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I did, was I look at a trait and how would that be caused by whatever environment that I would create on the planet they may be from, and how does that change them as far as communication, as far as how can they be around other races. I have one race that exists in kind of a hydro suit. Like they have to be in this full body suit of moisture in order to be around many of the other aliens who don't have to be in that kind of wet environment. So that's something different about them, and others that can't speak, and they just kind of had this scanner thing that puts out their thoughts or whatever, so people can understand them. So I did that. I kind of found these lists of weird genetic things and use that as
fun. And looking at like weird species that actually exist on Earth, you can get a lot of good ideas there. And also even just looking at chemistry, like I am not doing this for my current work, but you can look at chemistry if you want to get into like far more aliens and look at some of the speculation there. and even the people who are working in the field of artificial life, we have people who are working on creating like artificial genomes that use a different encoding. And you can see, I would pull from science. I'd start digging through journals if I wanted to create really alien aliens.
Yeah.
My dream is for someone to assemble a Wikipedia of all the crazy alien species I've made up. I have so many. So many.
You haven't done that yourself over time?
Just, like, go hog wild?
I go hog wild.
Okay.
I don't know how your drawing skills are, Patrick, but if you're like mine, it'd be page, and then the picture would be stick figure, and then just
pretty much.
I did my own playing cards of my characters, and they were exactly like that, but there might have been a hat on 2 of them.
In my first ever book, the invading species is called the Mingrine. And everyone's like, well, what do they look like? And I'm like, imagine if Godzilla was like 7 feet tall and carried a gun and a big sword.
Hey, aren't those the guys from the Land of the Lost?
There you go. Gorn? No, that was Star Trek.
No, what are they called? That old TV show, Land of the Lost.
Sleestaks? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, is that what you're talking about, looking like those?
I never watched that. Did they carry guns? Like big guns?
Oh, no, they had sticks.
Big eyes and reptilian and, yeah.
Because my guys have their big swords and their guns, and they do this thing with their sword. It's really fun. This fun thing. They like to cut off the arm of their victim and make their victim watch them eat it.
Oh, and awesome!
Love it.
Yeah,
nice.
That's why they carry the swords. Just the thing.
Yeah,
just to cut off the arm. That's the only reason.
Yeah,
no other reason.
Well, I mean, it's salt ceremony, but
you know.
Somebody said Godzilla with a Klingon personality.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. With like whatever the thing's called, the curved sword.
Yeah.
Oh wow, there's comments. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, there's comments, and you had a fan that showed up.
That's a colleague. That's not a fan.
We also did have that question early on that we could circle back to, because we said we would briefly, about do covers matter in the age of ebooks? And I would say yes. That is based on my knowledge buying ebooks, but also some of the market research I was even reading last night. It's either the first, depending on the generation, it's the first or the second factor in whether or not people purchase a book online, I think, is what I read.
And you need a cover if you're going to spam your book on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yes. And the cover needs to be genre appropriate and drawing in. And if you accidentally get one that's like a little too hard sci-fi, they won't buy your space opera. I'll tell you that right now.
So that
and I went too far the other way, and I'm starting to like pull it back because people think it's a YA fantasy, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna pull that back to sci-fi a little bit.
This is my first cover.
I'm gonna go on the other side of that one with this. Is that you've got 2 options. You can either go in and buddy up with every other sci-fi out there because, well, that's go with the proven work. Or if you have the different cover, it stands out on that Amazon page because it
does.
Absolutely.
And that's really good for me on Vela because my image is really like it pops when it's on the faves. Like,
and that's hard on Vela because you've got that size. It's like,
yeah. So it really pops, and people have said they really love it, but people do confuse the genre when they first see it, and that's problematic.
Yeah.
It's a space opera with lots of science and 8 POVs, and it's really epic. And so and there's lots of swears in it. So having people think it is YA is problematic.
Yeah.
That's why I just redid all my covers, because when I did them originally, I focused a lot on the fact that it was science fiction. And I thought that didn't matter, that it was really sci-fi rom. And so I would get people who would be bothered by the fact that they would get it and it'd be romance, because
they're like, there's romance in my sci-fi.
Yeah. So this is the original. So to me, this looks very science fiction, right? You've got the horizon, and and I just wasn't getting the right people. So then I redid it, and I have this. So it's still, to me, it still feels very.
It still communicates sci-fi, but with that little bit of romance, which is what I was trying to do with my silhouettes.
Yeah.
And I was also intentionally kind of trying to scare off people who maybe wouldn't like the fact that my book focuses on like it's got a lot of like serious science in it, but relationships are really important, and there's love, and if you're not going to like that in your sci-fi, then you probably shouldn't read it. But now I think I went too far.
And Winston
did. Sorry.
Winston does have a point. I mean, once you've got an author that you like, and the cover doesn't matter as much. I mean, I could take a blank PDF, just here's the title on generic, but it's got to get your attention in the first place.
Right. I'd buy a white cover with black writing on it from a lot of my favorite authors. Like I don't care. Like it's an automatic purchase for me. But you're right. When you're
it doesn't matter for Brian Sanderson at all.
Brand.
Oh no.
And some of his covers have shown that. He's got some bad covers, and he sells like crazy.
Yeah.
But for us,
I'm making bad covers my brand. Bad covers are going to be my brand. Have you seen my cheat books? Have you seen that cover?
Yeah.
I got one later in here somewhere. I don't know where I left it, but it's nothing but big purple words, and if you look real close, it's my picture in the background.
Yeah.
I put my picture on the front. So I'm that guy. My 1223, minimal. It's the most minimal. And you're right. It pops. You put it up against all the spaceships and planets, and it just stands right out. You're like, what is this nonsense?
Did you have a hard time initially getting people, or does it scream sci-fi still? Like the font can really help to communicate genre, and I'm assuming you went with a sci-fi font.
Give me a second. I'll go grab them.
Okay.
So
I think the font could be a huge difference.
Oh yeah, font communicates genre big time.
So you guys have seen my latest cover. I went from that blue cover to the new one I designed in Canva, by the way. And I've got a whole lot more people who are interested in the book just because of the cover. And that's what really, it just flipped majorly like that.
It's extra important on TikTok. Like, people are all about the cover reveals, and
you see, I really like that cover, and
that communicates sci-fi to me. So yeah, minimalistic, but it.
Well, see, that was one of the things. Like, my wife and I were tossing around was, do we continue with this trend for the Light Deck Chronicles and just keep updating the Roman numeral and change the skyscape, or do we go with a completely black cover and then just do a unit patch in the center? I think both would work, frankly.
That's the one I think of when I think of Patrick F. Johnson.
Yeah.
That cover. He gets people going, what is that?
Oh, you've gotten people to buy it.
Yeah.
It makes you have
look at that next to some spaceships. I mean, you never know. There could be a spaceship behind the word. You would never know.
Yeah, it makes you stop.
It's invisible.
Yeah.
Sensationalism.
True.
But there's a difference, I think,
I have
between minimalism and bringing the feminine into sci-fi. I think that the two might maybe not get the same reaction.
See, this was
also. I use the Avatar font. Just I thought it was funny, so I went with it. So I have to entertain myself first.
what you just said might be why I have more customers that are women than men.
Yeah.
Because
Why is that?
my new cover tends to draw in, not because it's a man, but just this design tends to.
It's because it's a handsome man.
No, he's got a big nose and everything. He's not even that handsome. But it was honestly the face I could find in Canva. It just was. But this seems to draw more women than men to this cover design, which I don't mind if I get more women reader. That's great to me.
Yeah.
The other reason I want to pull back from it being like so feminine is that like actually most of my like diehard fans are males. So like I want to make sure to bring it kind of to the middle.
All right, so we've gotten the cover one done. Did we miss any other questions through here?
Let's see. I'm scrolling back. I don't see anything off the top right now. I think we covered. I think we covered the ones that we had.
I know a couple people have mentioned that they like to get their books somewhere other than Amazon. That seems to be something that a few have mentioned. So I know some of us have chosen to stay with just Amazon. Some of us have gone wider. I think that's something every author has to figure out what they're going to do or not going to do, is if they're going to go wide or not wide. Or
I was wide recently and had a whole bunch of people. I actually polled some people on TikTok and got a bunch of messages where people are saying right now, because of the financial situation, they're doing less paperbacks, more ebooks, and they're trying to do more things like Kindle Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And so I brought my book back to Kindle Unlimited and lowered my prices on both paperbacks and ebooks, because if that's a mitigating factor right now is the economy, I'm going to do what I can, but I don't know.
I still have to make this decision, so I would love to hear about this.
I just did the exact opposite.
Massive fan.
I just went wide.
Massive fan of Kindle Unlimited, just for the sake of accessibility to everyone. I mean, for a low subscription, they can read as much as they want, and it's just a beautiful thing. We don't always have money to go buy a bunch of books.
No, that's true. Very true.
Yeah. 15 or is it 10, 15 bucks a month is so much easier to swallow than, $5 a pop for the actual novels. It's a lot of times I don't even advertise the Kindle or the paperback. I just say KU. I mean, if you're going to go to the page and you want a paperback or a hardcover or whatever, then fine, it's there. But I'm generally just going to advertise the KU because I know it's easier for me to afford.
We hear about authors though that like get their KDP account shut off and like suddenly
that makes me nervous. Yeah,
that makes me a little nervous. But it sounds like some of you are doing this and haven't had an issue with it. So
I've talked to people that have had that issue.
Yeah,
and there's been a couple of reasons for it. One, piracy.
Yeah.
And
well, okay.
author Amazon blames the author.
Someone else pirates.
Someone else pirates it. And so if your book is up on a pirate site, Amazon scans for any other place a person can get your book for free, and that includes pirate sites. And they'll tell you that you're up on a pirate site, and if you can't get it taken down, or if it happens multiple times, or if you get really popular and it happens over a lot of sites, you can get your account shut down. Yeah. And that means losing your last 3 months worth of profit. It means losing your account you probably buy stuff with, and they're not going to let you get back. Now you could fight that, and then people have won, but Amazon support is notoriously hard to work with. Now that's the rarity, though. That's the very small number. The other ones are the people that flagrantly violate the rules. So they've copied books, or and just changed a few words and posted them up, or they're doing the things like putting best of or whatever on the covers and things like that, and they've lost their accounts. But the only valid, like, real author I've heard that has lost accounts for their problem is is people putting their books up somewhere else.
Now, what I've heard an opposing view to that, and I'm not entirely certain how true this is if you did actually pay to have a copyright filed with the Copyright Office, that can play a factor in your argument back with Amazon, because if it's not just intellectual property copyright, basically just the whole, hey, I made this, and it's an actual physical copyright. I don't know. I don't know how true that is.
I can give a little more about that. That's only in the case that they say someone else has put up your book, like the same content, and you want to prove you've got the rights to it. And that happens sometimes. There are scammers out there.
Yeah.
You have an easier time with Amazon if you have a copyright through the Copyright Office. Right. Now, in the United States, by law, we have copyrights the moment we write it. But having one from the Copyright Office is federal proof that you've written it.
Right.
And that makes it easier. It's also if you wanted to sue. So you could win from Amazon and you could get the other person's stuff taken down. But if you want to sue, you have to have that one from the United States. But there is some grace time that you could actually, after the book is taken and put up, you could go file for that and prove by your hard drive that your dates are right or whatever, and get that granted to you. So there is some leeway there, but it's easier if you had that in the first place.
I would imagine owning your own ISBNs would help with that as well. If you have proof through Bowker that you have
I've never heard that, but I think it would.
I mean, if you assigned an ISBN to your title, Revolution, 4 years ago, and
but technically, someone else could go do that too. So,
well, that's what I mean. As far as, like, obviously, if I did it today and somebody else did it today, it'd be a question. But if I did it 4 years ago, and they did it today, clearly I've had it for 4 years. I
think that would help you with getting the federal one later.
Yeah.
But you'd still need that federal one if you wanted to sue.
And I mean, it's $50. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, I'm just fingers crossed for now that it's probably not going to happen. But I'm nervous about one platform sort of owning my entire income stream.
It's the really, 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 really small minority of people have had problems. Yeah. Really small number. But that small number puts a lot of fear in us, right?
Of course, now I write on Bella, so it's that way right now. But they do let you, like, you can open a Patreon, and as long as you have things behind a paywall, you can actually sell it other places as well. So,
right. Steampunk Wordsmith, come back in 30 minutes, and if we become mutuals, I can get you in here.
If we're still
here.
If we're still awake.
Now, about the copyright, I haven't checked on this yet, but somebody told me recently that, sorry, my computer's going to sleep. The Copyright Office has apparently set it up now that you don't have to pay for each title. You can actually, like, I could go in and do an entire series, 8 books in a series, I didn't know. One fee. I haven't looked yet, but someone told me about that, and they are people who really need to save money as much as possible. So I tend to believe that they found that. So that's something to maybe have people look at too.
But you'd have to have the whole thing published to do that, or
you would have to have a version of it. I don't think it has to be published, but it would have to be written.
You couldn't do your 10-book series if you're only 3 books in.
You can't just do the titles. You have to have something to file with them, whether it be electronic or otherwise. But they'll let you do it in mass bulk and save money that way. So that's something for people.
So, like, copyright the omnibus.
Yeah.
So if Patrick F. Johnson hasn't done it yet, he can go back and hopefully get it done for a lot of them.
I mean, in the end, the way that I looked at it was I look at everything very, very businessy, right? And so, yeah, I paid $50 for that copyright, but when I file my taxes at the end of the year, because my business isn't, I have an EIN and everything. I think we were talking about this in Discord the other day. Everything I use for this business of writing, I file as a tax break. My home internet, I do 90% of what I do on the internet at my house is writing and research.
Mm-hmm.
My phone, my personal phone, it's all marketing and stuff to do with the books. I look at it like I can, and I talked to a tax guy about this a couple of years ago. You can count part of your cell phone bill. You can count part of your internet bill. You can count part of your electric bill, your mortgage, anything you have. You get a cup of water while you're sitting here writing. Well, that counts. You can call that as part of your water bill. Can be deducted when you do your taxes.
I have a question.
Look at your props.
Yeah.
But
wait, what's up, Patrick?
If I were to drink 4 or 5 beers while writing, would I be able to write off the beer?
If that's part of your production of the video that you're doing and it was a cost of doing business.
If it is part of your creative process, absolutely.
I think so.
Or
so.
Even just the business, like, when me and my wife go sit down to eat dinner or something, if we get into a conversation about publishing, which happens a lot, well, to me,
thank you for cash. I like it. Sorry, I got a cash shooter at me.
I mean, if we get into a conversation about publishing, to me, that says that this meal is a business meal.
That's harder with your wife, though. That one, when audited, would have to be pretty well justified.
Yeah, that's a tough. Yeah. When I owned a publishing house, I owned a publishing house for 10 years. And when it came to our taxes, if we were traveling, my business partner and I, if we were traveling, we couldn't write off our food because whether we were traveling or not traveling, we had to eat. Now, we always, when we attended a large convention that we always went to, one day during that convention, we would host breakfast for our authors that were attending or anybody that we did business with. And so we could write off that meal because it was a networking thing. But my food, her food, that kind of thing, we couldn't because that was just part of being there for us. But yeah, it's there's things I wouldn't recommend I'm married to a finance guy. This is why I kind of, so I wouldn't get into much fine point. Try to keep it broader because when you get down to the itty bitty, that's when the IRS starts going, what are they doing?
Maybe we should look closer.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with like the, a percentage of your mortgage if you have a home office, that kind of thing, your internet, that kind of thing. When it gets into the water bill, I'm not quite so sure, but
like Canva, like all of the things that are like obviously
all your software, your laptop. If you use your laptop or your whatever you write on, for the majority of it is for work. It is a work device.
Association fees. Like I am a member of the Alliance of Independent Authors.
Yeah.
That is contributory to my business. And so I pay an annual fee for that and I can write that off as well.
The way I look at it is like, sure, I don't make a, crazy amount of money off of book sales, but at the end of the day, it still is going to end up in my favor just because of, tax breaks. I mean, come on.
So talking about like if you're okay with shifting to talking about how do we market our books, because I am super excited about people reading my story and I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Would you guys be open to sharing some ideas on how what has worked for you?
Well, I can tell you what has not worked.
That's okay. We can go there.
That's the easier conversation.
But it's a valid part of the conversation.
So one of the things I did from the very beginning is, and I think we've all talked about this before, I flat out told everybody in the beginning with most of my marketing that half of whatever I make goes back to Mission 22, right? The problem is that a lot of people didn't know what Mission 22 was, and you can't explain what Mission 22 is in a Twitter post. So, and so that really didn't do a whole lot. And you can't sit there and every time you mention your particular charity, you can't go back and say, well, this is what they do, because it just takes forever. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. And again, not only is it's a little selfish, and it's mostly the fact that I'm a veteran, but again, it goes back towards the whole tax break thing. But for me, the big one was with the Mission 22 thing. Those guys need the help. So
I do know some authors who are getting into the merch game,
yeah,
and especially one that I know now. He does I don't know how to pronounce it, wuxia. He doesn't write sci-fi. He writes Chinese martial arts epics, but there are a lot of people who just love that art style. So he has a Redbubble store, and he's actually getting readers from people who are buying the merch, which is kind of crazy. So I think that's a possibility. If you have really cool art, if you commissioned really cool art, you could actually potentially bring people in to your story from that.
Mm-hmm. Or if you got really cool quotes or really good taglines from your story, that could get it there too. Mm-hmm. I want to do merch, but I'm not big enough yet.
That was something I wanted to do, and I want to still do. Is my wife has designed the AHF logo, and then she's designed each one of the 7 different course for the LITEC course. And I wanted to make challenge coins, military hefty challenge coins, because
cool.
I think that'd be awesome.
Could you do that with a 3D printer?
It's metal, so
you could do it with the right 3D printer.
Okay.
It would cost money. You might go to a service to get them done, a 3D printing service.
I mean, I think it would be really cool because, I remember when I was in, everybody would sit there and talk about, well, this is the coin that I got, right? I got a 1-star coin, and that was a game we all played. Was you go sitting there drinking, and somebody say, well, whoever's got the highest challenge coin has the next gets their next drink free. Everybody put their coin on the table, and if you had a 1-star coin, you were pretty solidly all right,
That's pretty cool. I like that.
But
I know people who have wanted to do. Apparently, you can buy, and I hate the word, but the Funko Pop dummies. So it's like a blank Funko Pop, and then you can make it into whatever you want it to be. I've heard of people doing that.
What's a Funko Pop? I feel like I should know this.
I don't have any.
Bob, hang on, I'll show you. Can you see them?
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
You got to get a little zoomed in.
Yeah,
it's the big head.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. As far as other ways of advertising, I have participated in a couple of free programs that I learned a lot from. On TikTok, if you find a gentleman named Brian Cohen, it's Cohen, BryanCohen. He does every 3 months a free, I think it's 5-day Amazon ad school. And he teaches you the basics of doing an Amazon ad, what to do, what not to do, how much to bid, what not to bid, that kind of stuff. I just recently did one. He promoted it, but it was somebody else who did it for Facebook ads. They want you to sign up for their full course when they're done. It's kind of like a timeshare thing. You go and you get free food, but you got to walk around and listen to them talk about it, right?
Right.
But you get enough out of it to at least start a process of figuring out what to do with that. And I have seen a little bit of traction with the Amazon ads. I haven't done Facebook yet. Facebook actually costs more because
that's the only option for Vela because they haven't turned on Amazon ads for it yet.
Oh, okay.
So the ad option for Vela is Facebook, and I've looked into it, but until I get back to covers, until I get my imaging and that packaging down, I don't really want to start blasting it out there because just because people click on it doesn't mean that they clicked on it and then they liked it.
Right.
Like there could be a mismatch there.
Well, now
I'll check Poppy on BookFunnel to see if anyone does Vela swaps on BookFunnel.
They do, and a lot of authors do that. The problem is I have no mailing list. I have like barely any social media. So until I build something up to share back, I'm not sure if that's really an option yet.
Well, I think that's marketing is, sharing and trying to repost and stuff. And I got into the habit with Twitter, right? You retweet the people that are also authors. I mean, I do it. I don't know how much it helps out with TikTok, but I know it helped out with Twitter and it helps out with Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not entirely sure, it's a...
Well, and that's a thing that I'm super stoked about, and I'm actually starting later this week is with various other authors in this genre who write books and other Vela authors who also write sci-fi. We're going to start doing some lives, and I want to start doing some reviews. So that's easy. Like when it comes to just like reading people's stuff and being like, this is awesome, you should read it. Like I'm all about that.
Well, and a lot of the swaps will let people without mailing lists start. But what you want to do is you want to set it up so that it helps build your mailing list.
Yeah.
So get them to sign up from that swap. That's why I'm not sure if that's going to work with Vela or not.
I think so. There are some prequel type short stories that when with all the abundant time I have on my hands, that I could potentially write as a giveaway. Vela's a little weird because it's not like I can just like be like, here's the whole book because I'm only allowed to give away 5,000 words.
The other thing we could do, and I'm open to doing this, is in my newsletter, I could feature someone. So I could say, here, I'm featuring Poppy Ryan. Here's her work. Here's a link to her. I've never
turned it down.
Yeah, here's her link to the Vela library. Now, will that convert from someone who's not a Vela author? Unknown.
That is challenging. Like, there's not a huge amount of crossover between people who are really into the serial experience and people who are really into books. But the cool thing is when you get done with your Vela, when you do like, as I'm going to do, and it's going to come out in volumes, you actually get to tap into a second market. So that's pretty cool.
I'm going to go ahead and say this now. I'll gladly say I will be for sale. If I make sell 100 books in a month of just Forged by Light, I will go buy a French maid's outfit and dance around. I will say it right now. You buy 100 of my books in 1 month, I will go get a French maid's outfit. I will run around downtown Atlanta. I promise. And every month we
I'll wear a leopard onesie for free.
Well, you were supposed to tonight and you didn't.
I know. Where's the onesie, man?
I saw you did it during the week, so it might need to be washed.
Yeah, it's in the laundry. So sorry. Maybe next time.
So
the other thing is, like on Vela, if people aren't Vela readers yet, because they get free tokens, they actually can read the first like 28,000 words for free, and I still get paid by Amazon. So
that's the important thing, I think, to put in a newsletter swap, right? So I'm happy to do that next month in my newsletter for you. We could do that and see if it works.
Yeah. And again, I'm all for the throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks method of marketing right now, because that's all I got.
Well, see, and I think that's one of the things is, the weird things about marketing. What works this week won't work next week,
Yeah, and I don't just want people to buy it. Like, since it's a serial, I've got a Discord server and people are coming in and looking at art. I'm actually trying to get people coming in like on a weekly basis after they read the episode so they can come in and be like, no, she didn't do that. But like,
well, I mean,
it's starting.
I going towards the Vela thing. I decided to say screw it, and at least while I'm using that as kind of a better version of Royal Road. Because what I did is Royal Road, as I was writing out book 2, initially I was throwing up my first draft up there, see if I had any interest. I did. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm putting my third draft up on Vela as I go. And sure, it's going to have issues, and people are going to say stuff about it because they're people. And that's kind of the point.
The thing I will say about Vela is there is absolutely zero natural traffic for news stories on Vela. You must market. I had to really work hard to get enough readers who are giving me their weekly fave, because that's what put me on the leaderboards and gave me any visibility at all.
I've seen that. It's difficult to find anything with Vela. I mean, even established authors like Rick Walteri put Boer War. He put up a short one on there.
Yeah, their indexing algorithm is still kind of crap, and they know it. They're working on it. So there are certain things that don't get indexed. So you go into the search bar on Vela and it doesn't show up.
Well, wasn't Vela still?
Hi, Elizabeth. Just saying hi.
Wasn't Vela supposed to be like a beta test experiment anyway to see if it was viable?
No, they are continually adding to the bonus pool for Vela. They actually ramped up their presence at the latest conference. I think it was they do the 20 to 50K conference. They had stuff this year for Vela there, and the previous year there weren't a lot of people there, but this year they're there. They're starting to turn on new features. They're betaing new features. So my gut sense as a software person is that Vela is not going away. They could.
My gut is it makes more money than KU. KU is becoming Kindle Unlimited is actually moved into a loss platform for Amazon.
Oh,
they're stopping to do some of the high end bonuses. So Kindle Unlimited, if you were getting in the higher level reads, you were getting big money. There's big bonuses for all of that has gone away and now transferred over to the Vela.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bonuses, again, they're decent now. People who are there just for the money, you see them in the Facebook groups just whining about how the bonuses are going down. But those who are writing really good stuff are still getting paid. And so I have a hard time really sympathizing with that, because I'm go improve your craft. Stop wanting a handout, go write a better story. And that may sound harsh, but it's a market.
I think Vela is going to see the same problem that KU got. And I mean, think about it. There's a lot of Facebook groups that there's a lot of readers that are really have a lot of trepidation towards reading anything with KU, simply because it has a stigma, or some of the books have a stigma of being, NaNoWriMo first draft. I put it up on KU and walked away.
That is my pet peeve with people with Vela. They're like, it's so cool. You can put your NaNoWriMo up while you're writing it and possibly make money on it. I'm like, thank you so much for making people think that unedited,
crap,
unquality stories are what are on Vela. Thank you so very much. You're helping me very much.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it creates it's a stigma, and it's not helping, but and it's the same problem KU had for its entire lifetime. I mean, if you remember back before they changed it to page reads, it was book reads.
Oh yeah, and then everybody was just putting out these little itty bitty books, and
people were putting out pamphlets, 3-page pamphlets.
Yeah, garbage.
Yes, I'm the host.
So anyway, I think Vela is going to have its growing pains the same way KU had.
Yeah, it will. But the thing that's funny is people are like, oh, but it could fail, and I'm like, yeah, it could fail, but then you don't get the early adopter advantage. So you're going to complain either way. Either you're complaining that the platform's not mature, or that you can't get any traction because you're too late.
Well, and you told me something earlier today that I didn't know about Vela. I didn't know that once I go to publish, I don't have to take it off of Vela. I can
They
leave.
changed it because people complained. So as long as like 30 days after the last bit of content that will go into a book,
Okay.
Only 30?
you must wait 30 days, but then you can publish it. But like people, you have to be really careful because even like pre-sales are like probably a no-go. And so, but as long as it's 30 days, yeah, you can have your Vela up, and that way you can have like a season 2 that's Vela, and people can go get your KU book to get caught up in your series and then come join in.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think Vela's going to have, maybe it's going to have some track. It might fail, it might not, but what does it hurt to try, right?
Right.
I mean, we're all authors. How many of us have, failed? All of us. Every single one of us has failed on something with your book at least once.
No, I think Vela's a great idea. I wish they just get the features to support that idea the way I was hoping to use it. But
there are 3 stories right now that have chat in beta. They really want to make sure that they get the kinks worked out so it doesn't turn into a troll swamp and a nightmare for authors. So they're testing it on 3 like high profile stories where they're like working in collaboration with the author, and they're going to be rolling that out relatively soon once they get the kinks worked out.
The hard thing I found and why I kind of put a pause on what I was doing was because my audience wasn't transferring. And so at the time, I was busy building an audience for my physical and ebooks. I wasn't ready to build a different audience at Vela. And that's where I was kind of at, because you weren't getting natural. I got like 4 or 5 reads.
There is no natural traffic, in my opinion, on Vela. Like, I've worked for everything.
Right.
And that's okay. But I would like to start running ads when I can get my marketing worked out.
And I heard someone recently say that Vela ads didn't work well on Facebook. But
it depends on the
that's
story.
all going to matter about.
Some authors, like the ones who are saying it doesn't work, when I go look at the Facebook, because you can go look at their ad library. And so I went and pulled up all the Kindle Vela ads. And the authors who are making bank, like, they're doing tons of A/B testing. They're using lots of different things, and they're really doing it right. And a lot of the people who are like, oh, Facebook ads don't work, you go pull up their ad, and it's just not a good ad. So, I mean, bad ads don't work.
Yeah, and that's why I wasn't sure if That's who's complaining or not.
And I think it probably depends on the story, the genre, like whether or not those people are on Facebook.
And when I was first on there, the space opera didn't look like it was moving very well, but that might have changed since I've looked at it.
It's still very dominated by romance. I'm not shocked by this, but like right now, so there's 250 top faves that end up on the list, and there's always between 19 and 21 sci-fi books that are on there. So we tend not to be like in the top tier, but I know a lot of these authors and they're good stories, and so there's representation. 20 out of 250 are sci-fi.
Hey, Mike, you were looking for Steampunk Wordsmith?
I invited him.
Okay, because it says this is Steampunk Wordsmith on other account.
Yeah, he's got a purple square right now, so I'm not sure where his video is, but...
Okay.
I need a cool, memorable name like Monty. Trevor, you forget about, like, every
time you look me up...
Say it a million times.
Drill it in. This is Trevor. Sci-fi writer Trevor.
Every time you look me up, you find an NBA player, so I understand your pain.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I'm weird about my own name, and granted, I know that loads of drinking and unlimited self-doubt are requirements for being an author, but my name doesn't help.
Well, I know there's another.
Here's how you deal with self-doubt.
There's a Gail Delaney that writes books about dream interpretation. So I kind of have to butt up against that. She spells Gail wrong, but
Mine's a pen.
There's another Patrick Johnson who writes science fiction, but I think he died.
Oh.
Now it's yours. Sort of.
I put the F in there.
Well, a lot of artists sell better after they're dead, so you might be able to tap into that.
Yeah. True.
Did Eddie Murphy do that in a movie?
Well, see, another author that did that was Drew Hayes with his superpowers and all that. He didn't realize he wasn't the only Drew Hayes publishing whenever he started putting out books, and then found out that there was people long dead.
Oops.
Yeah, mine's a pen name because, I'm sure you're shocked to know that Orion is not my last name.
What?
I think Monty's stuck in purple land here. He's not connecting.
Yeah, I'm not seeing Monty. I've seen more than 5 people on a live before.
Oh, it works. I don't know what's going on. He's literally it says he's connecting it when I go into the guest list.
Maybe he's still configuring his video?
Has a countdown. I would have thought it would have timed out.
All right.
Huh.
We'll see. If I can crash him, I will. But
well, if the countdown hits 0 and we all explode, we know exactly what happened. So
that's what happened right there.
It's the final countdown.
Yeah, I mean, and how fitting would it be? We would all go down in history as the sci-fi authors that exploded when the countdown hit 0. There we go. We just sold a zillion copies.
I don't want to be known for that. Okay, he had to restart TikTok.
Yeah.
Okie doke.
There you are.
Hey.
There you go.
Hi.
Hi, living proof that technology helped me.
Did you kick it? Did you throw it across the yard?
No, my phone just kept saying, Monty, what are you doing, Monty? Oh, shut up! You don't even have a man's voice. And it was. Monty's not my real name, by the way, Trevor.
Really?
No, I live in Montgomery County.
Oh. Well.
I used to play airsoft and paintball a lot.
Yeah.
And I started the Montgomery County Paintball Club. And I was invited to be the general in the largest paintball game ever played. And so English General turned up in Pennsylvania, and my email address was Monty's Mayhem, because it was Montgomery County Paintball Club. And the name stuck.
That works then.
Yeah. Tommy Sutton is not a very good sci-fi author's name. So I took my stepdad's name and stuck it on the end of the county I live in, and that became Montgomery Harris. So that's how I got my writer's name.
That works.
Have we been missing that many comments to say we need a moderator?
We've got a couple of people that are going back and forth and got nothing going on with what's.
Yeah, there's a lot of nonsense.
There's a lot of nonsense that I can't read because, I just And
oh my gosh!
Sorry.
Can everyone?
I'll ban some people.
Can everyone hear me okay? Because I'm on the.
Yes.
Yeah.
This stand is temperamental that I have my phone on, but.
Dude, I've got my phone leaned up against a mason jar.
Okay. Is it
that works?
Because ball work better for the phone. So for mason jars. I mean, because a ball mason jar is the perfect one to stand your phone in, so it amplifies. But the Kerr ones are too small.
Yeah.
So you can turn a ball mason jar into a speaker.
So I haven't met you before. Are you a sci-fi author? I'm assuming?
Yes, I am. I'm a steampunk author.
Awesome.
But I studied science fiction horror, and then I spent 3 years working on a series about a worldwide pandemic that caused complete social strife, and it was due for release in June of 2020, and I decided not to.
Yeah.
I gave up on a zombie novel that was based on a worldwide pandemic about the same time. How funny.
It was I had the first 5 books released, and I was going to do my first ever rapid release. And they were going to come out June, July, August, September, and October. And my beta readers were calling me up saying, Monty, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
The first book was called The Type Plan, and it was all based on real CDC manuals and Red Cross manuals for setting up evacuation stations and everything like that. And I had the entire country set up into different quarantine zones. So any city with a population of more than 1 million would be left on its own. And I made the decision. I said to my wife, if they send hospital ships in the next 2 weeks to Los Angeles and New York, I'm pulling it.
Yeah.
And
someone wants to know your full author name.
Montgomery Harris.
And on top of that, you've got the British accent going for you. So there's your marketing right there.
That's all you need.
And it came free with my head. Can you believe that look? You know, it was that ease of, what is it, British ease of authority they call it.
Yeah.
But it helps me out more at steampunk conferences when I'm doing panels.
Oh, that even fits even better for steampunk, because steampunk is it feels like a very British like genre. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was first exposed to steampunk watching that old show Sanctuary. They had, was it Sherlock Holmes that was in the big clockwork mech suit thing? Yeah, that's how I found steampunk.
I think it's probably because so many people set their steampunk in England, like, 100 years ago or whatever. It's a fun setting.
Yeah, there's always that perception that Gaslight Mystery is also steampunk.
It's not. I might be messing this up.
It's Gaslight Steam. I think it's, from other authors I've met, there's like an argument on whether it's a byproduct of steampunk or it always existed, but steampunk predates itself by 100 years, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and Gaslight Mysteries have been around for about the same amount of time as well.
Yes.
Did the two kind of get lumped together, or was it just a natural coexistence? So,
does anyone write under Gaslight currently?
Many people, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that they weren't the same. I'm learning things. This is great.
They are very Gaslight Mystery, sort of like, it's more supernatural based, where the steampunk's more technology and futurism combined together.
Okay. I was gonna say maybe something like a Jim Butcher, but at the same time, that I almost find Jim, more of a urban fantasy. So
Jim Butcher wrote one of the best steampunk novels of the last 10 years.
Which one?
The Cinder Spires Book 1, the Winless. And we've been waiting 5 years now for Book 2 to come out. It's been on his website before.
So he's just joining Rothfuss and Martin,
That's so sad. No.
I've lost all hope in Rothfuss and Martin.
I think what it is with George R.R. Martin is he wants to stay away so much from the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
anything that looks like he might have got inspiration from the TV show is becoming unwilling writer's block, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the flip side to that is, you know, Game of Thrones, and he said this in a interview some years ago. Game of Thrones was really just based off of the War of Roses with zombies and dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is he ran out of history to copy.
Yeah.
The war ended. And so now he's got to play the whole thing out on his own.
Yeah. Yeah, a game of Plantagenist.
Right.
Yeah, like as a reader, I'm disappointed, obviously, when people like are unable to finish a series that I enjoy. But you know, as a person, like Rothfuss in particular, you know, he hops on social media, and I think he's worked himself up. Like he's made this such a big thing that I actually feel bad for him as a person, like that he's paralyzed.
Mm-hmm. Because he's known for such elegant writing that if he puts out anything that's not quite as elegant, and I mean I'm not elegant, you know, I use the F word like a comma, you know, let's daily life. But I mean, you know, when you've got somebody that they're known for elegance, for stepping up that elegance every time, you kind of almost. And you're right. I kind of do feel bad for him in a way.
I do, because I mean, I get it. Like I've worked myself up, not in this particular arena, but I've worked myself up before. Like I did this great thing, people love it, and now I'm afraid that they're not going to like the way I end it. Like I get it. I'm disappointed. I'd like to see how it ends, but I think that the more that fans are like angry with him, I think it's actually not helping the book to come out.
No.
Could you also imagine the imposter syndrome he must be under, right?
Yeah.
You know, it must be terrible. I mean, but don't worry about dropping the F-bomb like a comma. I come from the black country of England. We've been doing that for years.
I had a customer from Liverpool. I couldn't understand a word that dude said except for the F word.
Was
universal?
Did you do that don't they? Because it comes from Liverpool, don't we? Hey. One of them, was it?
Yeah. Exactly.
I
was a college professor.
Yeah. There's certain accents that you cannot be taken seriously in a profession. Like if you're a scout, being a college professor is real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If you came from my hometown and I used my real accent, you wouldn't want any of us as a brain surgeon. It'd be like,
I live in Indiana. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I live in Indiana too, so yeah.
Mesha, if I was to start using my own original accent, you wouldn't be able to trust me with anything, no. Outside of hunting potato.
Yeah. But if I was using my accent, because we still speak Old English where I come from, so it wouldn't sound the same at all for you, would it? Because you'd be taking the whammel down the cut for a ball of chalk, wouldn't you?
And I just talk like this. I'm from Nebraska. We apparently have no accent.
Yes. It actually says that in my book that I'm working on right now.
Yeah, it's where lots of people come to study ESL, because we have like the most neutral accent of all English accents, so very boring.
Well, the dad actually says to the German son, "Don't worry, I don't think this place will have an accent in 100 years." Actually, a line in my book.
I'm a Cajun.
Nebraska bland, yeah.
I'm a Cajun. We've got my Cajun accent ain't even the worst Cajun accent you've ever heard.
Yeah, I love Cajun accent. Though I once created for a short story, I once created a cyborg that was Cajun, and he used to walk around going, "Here, watch that, there, you couillon, huh? You want to pass me that dish, yeah?" It was like, But it's one of those great unique accents that you can never mistake for anything else. Like Indiana, you can mix with Illinois and parts of West Ohio, you know. And if you're in the south of Indiana, you know, you've got the crossover between Kentucky, Mississippi area, right? Sorry,
Kadurkians here.
Kadurkians.
We same way we have Pennsyltuckians, you know.
But I was born and raised in New England, but most of the time nobody believes me when I say that because, you know, I don't pack the cat and have it to get some chowder, you know. But it's because, and this was something I didn't even realize till I was an adult, that you know, you don't think of these things when you're a child. My mother was profoundly hearing impaired, and so I learned as a young child that I had to make eye contact with her, and I had to speak to her directly, and I had to speak very clearly and enunciate clearly. So I did not develop that deep central Maine accent. People think I'm from the Midwest because of that, the flat. But get me going. If I talk long enough, it shows up eventually. But
in that case, can I ask the five of you a question, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
How do you write accents?
I try to limit it. I might describe, like, if a character has an accent that I want to make sure that the reader knows about, I might describe it, but I don't try to write it phonetically because I think that gets really cumbersome for the reader sometimes. I have one character that he drops all his G's, you know, he's reading, riding, you know, that kind of thing. And I just kind of do the N with the apostrophe to kind of give that. But I try not to because it gets a little, especially when you have a cast of characters, you know, I have 20 on people, and to try to do that, it gets pretty complicated.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. As a reader, I don't love when people do really affected speech. A little bit is fun. A little bit of conlang can be fun, but a little too much and it's not so good.
It's seasoning. It's not, I don't want it to be the full spice, but I like just, you know, make somebody interesting because of what they say.
I know he's like, you know, untouchable, but even Tolkien goes a little too far into conlang for me.
I've got a good old Georgia boy in Forged by Light, and I basically, if I'm trying to make it sound, I'll comment, you know, the drawl or whatever, but I don't write it out phonetically either because, well, I don't want to try to translate that into text, and you know, because depending on where you are in Georgia, that accent changes drastically.
Yeah. It's like that with a lot of places. I try to use, if I have characters that are from a region that may use different words for things, or, you know, they just have different speech patterns, I slide that in so that that makes it clear that they may be from the South, or maybe from England, or maybe from New England, or, you know, to give just their tone and their cadence in their language sometimes. But phonetic spelling of accents gets cumbersome.
Readers get sucked out of, like, the immersion fails when you have to, like, switch from reading to decoding.
Yeah, try to think of,
We've got some good comments in here. Like, character development does allow you to create dialogue and context of tonality. Definitely. If you go audio, hinting accents can be awesome. I totally agree, especially with large casts. I love it when, I don't know how they do it, but these narrators these days who can do different accents for all the different characters is phenomenal, and I love it.
So what I did with Zach, and so I've signed a contract with Zachary Johnson here in Book Talk. If you've never heard his stuff, go listen to him. He's absolutely fantastic. But what I did with Zach is I made a spreadsheet and said, hey, these are your characters, you know, boom, 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 boom. This is their nationality. This is their, if they have an accent or not. This is, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I laid it out and said, this is where they're from. This is, that way let him do his thing. He's the narrator. His job is accents and voices, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
So to me, it was, all right, so your job is accents. My job's to tell you what they should sound like, and we'll meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whenever I
Joey-
think of accents and science fiction, I think of Doctor Who. And when they did the revival and the episode Rose, where she says to him, if you're an alien, why do you sound like you're from the north? And he says, lots of planets have a north.
Yeah.
I don't try to do the accent, but if you know Doctor Who, you know the accent. But
And when Pompeii, whenever they were speaking Latin, it sounded Welsh.
Yeah.
yeah.
The reason I ask this question is I am currently, the series I'm currently working on, which is The Age of the Navigator, which is like a vast project. It's huge. And it's done in 3 phases. And phase 1 is the European part of the story, right? And the first book is called Pride of the Black Country. Now, where I come from is the Black Country, and it's not a region, more of a definition of a culture. It's a cultural region, I should guess is the term. And one of the things about our culture is we are now officially recognized as a dialect or an accent. Because we still speak Old English. It's the closest thing to Old English that you'll ever find.
Okay.
Still being spoken today. So we say things like, instead of you aren't, it's you a.
Okay.
And we say things like, a is actually recognised now in the English dictionary of the Black Country dialect for saying isn't. Actually says it now. So if something isn't, it's a. A is actually a word. But you can't write that in a book because it's so difficult to follow. It's difficult to understand.
So is your audience gonna know the accent if you were to describe it?
What I've done is, in the story, I've done it so that when that character's speaking to anyone who is from the Black Country, people look at them with a puzzled accent. So with expression, a puzzled expression. So it's like you'll have the 2 people talking normally, but the person, I always write the characters that are talking, I have them speaking, and they're always looking at the person who they're talking to, who isn't from the region, puzzled.
Okay.
And then someone explains to them
what they're saying.
What they're saying. So I'm using the environment to say that the accent is difficult to understand.
So that's kind of
I like that approach.
Yeah.
Like Snatch did something kind of similar, I think, with one of the accents that Brad Pitt did. That they actually like had to put subtitles on the screen, and you were not supposed to be able to understand it.
Yeah, you like dogs.
Somebody was asking about Doctor Who again, whether Doctor Who came from TV script or book. And somebody also answered them, but I think the answer was correct. Doctor Who originated on television first, and it was on television for 20 some odd 30 years, was canceled, and then they really started doing radio shows, the books, and that type of thing, and that bridged the gap until 2005.
And then they rebooted it.
When they did, I don't like to call it quite a reboot, kind of a continuation, but
it is a continuation because it like, rather than being like, let's start over again, it is just a reincarnation.
Although they tried to do that a little bit here and there, that really irritates me. They're like, oh, canon what? But the books came from television. But I mean, Doctor Who, nobody started with any kind of canon. Nobody said, well, this is how it's going to be, and we're going to do 13 regenerations. And they're like, the guy's getting old. What are we going to do? We need a new doctor. Okay, they regenerate. And this is what we're doing now. And
Doctor Who,
hey guys.
Make it up as you go along. Sorry.
Hey, I gotta go. I gotta put the kids to bed. So have a good night.
Good
night. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us.
By.
Yeah, so with that accent, it's very difficult. I tried several different ways of writing it, and I thought, if it's a difficult accent to understand, just say that the other characters don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Exactly.
it's easier to describe something in a book to the reader through the perspective of somebody who doesn't know it.
Yeah. Now,
You know, they're not coming in with all this knowledge that you're trying to push across.
At the beginning of the book, I do have like 5 common used phrases
Okay.
that are actual words.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you describe someone as a yam yam, that means they are not a Brummie, they are from the Black Country.
Okay.
So a yam yam is whatever Black Country person is defined. They're a yam yam.
I love that you did that in the front, but the biggest problem with that, like the ebooks, they just skip right over that front matter, and your readers won't even see it unless you're setting your.
But if it's like 5 words, we're in Conley territory. Like, you can usually pick things up from context if it's like 5 words.
Well, Mike's got a point. A lot of times when you open up that file on your phone, the first thing it does is bring you straight to chapter 1.
Yep. Absolutely. But
what
I'm saying, I think probably is contextually understandable.
Yeah, but I actually did that under the heading of chapter 1.
Oh, okay. That's perfect. Right there. That did it.
So, like, it's chapter 1, and then there's 2 words, and I'm thinking of just dropping in a few words at the beginning of it that are actual words, recognized words, like whammel. We don't say dog, we say whammel.
If you included the pronunciation of that, people would love it. Like every chapter or every couple chapters as you need them.
Mm-hmm. Like our kid.
Next thing we know, we're going to have people running around using Black Country slang.
Yeah.
But like, it's a context thing. If the whammel ran across the yard barking, like, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And it's like I have the character saying, "Well, you're there again, aren't you?" But that doesn't mean anything to anyone outside the Black Country.
Right.
Which means I've caught you out. You know? So, like, if you catch somebody lying, you're like, there again, are you?
Yeah.
You know? Or, excuse my French here, guys. If someone's lying to you a lot, one of the common sayings is, "Oh, shit up your back."
Okay.
Right?
Okay, I want that one to be more common.
Yeah. Which means if you're taking me for an horse's ass, I'm going to shit on your back. So it's but the most common one where I come from, and everyone uses it every day. My mom and my sisters and my aunt were just over for Thanksgiving, and we went to a bar to watch the England versus USA game. And my sister actually turned around with the drinks and she said, "Mind the Osh Road, will you?" And like these bunch of Americans just turned around and went, "What?"
What?
And if you're carrying something and someone's in your way, you're in the horse's path. Right?
Okay.
You're in the road.
Yeah, it'd take a little getting used to.
Yeah. So it's things like that I've put at the beginning of it. So now get out of the Osh Road, will you?
I actually think that's going to endear people to you.
Yeah, it's so it's like phrases like that I've put in, and then like total slang I've stayed away from. Like we say yo, we don't say you ever. We don't say. It's hard to think of them, but when you're saying them, they come out quick. Oh, go on then.
Yeah.
Is all one word. You know, so it's like my wife does it all the time when she's over in England, and when they come here, it's like tea, which is tea, right?
Yeah.
We don't say, "Do you want a cup of tea?" You just go tea, which means it's tea time, right? So, which not to be confused with tie, which means he isn't. So, but we won't go there.
Yeah, that's confusing. But I think you could even do that one out in dialogue, simply, and people would get it.
Cup of tea. Well, if you say it like that,
Or even if she's walking, talking about someone who's bringing the tea, and just use the phrase, the reader's smart enough to put two and two together on that one.
Yeah, it's there's contextual clues for a lot of them, but at the same time, there's certain things that I know people would never understand, and there's no way I'd ever be able to explain it. Like, it's a bit black over at Bill's mother's in it, right? Which means there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
Right. Just to explain that is like it's dead words, isn't it, in the text?
I like it though. I like putting it. Go ahead.
Joey had an interesting comment it was a while back, but he was talking about how like even just little changes in voice can, like, you don't necessarily have to hit the accent perfectly. Like, he was talking about, I think, a fantasy novel. Correct me if I get this wrong, Joey, but he was talking about a fantasy novel where one group of people says cannot, the other says can't, and it's just that formality level sort of distinguishes the groups. And I like stuff like that as well. Like, when you get into character voice, like, I have characters who cuss up a storm, and I have other characters who, even in their thoughts, everything is very poetic. And I'm sure, like, you guys do this as well, but I think some of that can be done to convey, like, more of those accent sorts of things without necessarily having people get caught up and bogged down in the language.
Yeah, I do that to distinguish class.
Mm-hmm.
Upper class not, lower class can't. Upper class it is not, lower class it ain't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because I write mid-19th century, contractions were considered terribly bad manners by the upper class.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
But what was the other thing I was going to say? You said something about changing voice, and it triggered a thought for me, and then I lost it.
If you guys don't mind me going to a sidebar real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think I mentioned earlier about the whole Mission 22 thing, and I'm going to do a actual TikTok about this later. But hey, while we're here, why not say something, right? So one of the just wanted to go ahead and kind of bring a little bit of optics to them. So do you guys know what Mission 22 is?
Yes,
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So the national average is 22 veterans take their own life per day. So there is this charity organization called Mission 22 that is actually run by my friend's daughter. But anyway, they take veterans who are struggling to come back into, the civilian life, and bring them out into the wilderness, and they spend about a week, 2 weeks out in the middle of nowhere. And they sit with her Green Beret husband, right, who was a POW for something like 8 months, and they sit there and kind of deprogram, right? It's therapy through exposure to what you've already been through, right? Facing the issues you had. So anyway, so what I do, and I know I've mentioned it, is I take a chunk of what I make. I take half of whatever I profit for the year in my book, and I send that over to Mission 22. And I try to take any kind of opportunity I have also to say, hey, if you want to donate to Mission 20, donate to charity, go over, send that over to Mission 22. They need the help, right?
And since you write military sci-fi, I feel like that probably vibes with your readership.
It very much does. And that's one of the things that I like to bring up in books is, the mental, there's a lot of mental strain that goes behind being a soldier, and especially having seen combat. And, there's more to combat than just being deployed, go and shoot a gun, and going home. Right? That's not. There's a whole lot else behind it. And so again, I try to take, especially this time of year, what I do is I cut the check for Mission 22 the day before Christmas. Right? I've done that for years. It's just this is the first year I've actually had a book out, so it's not just going to be coming from my own personal donation. It's going to be coming from book sales as well. So anyway, sorry to derail, but that's one of the things I wanted to go ahead and lay out there. If anybody wants to donate to Mission 22 and doesn't know their site, reach out to me, and we can either set something up where I can add whatever to what I'm sending to them, or I can just give you the link to their website. I don't care either way, right? So, yeah.
Just
Trevor,
what you were saying there real quickly as an addition to your sidebar. I served from 1989 to 1997, and I did 4 tours. And when he says combat is hard and difficult, let me tell you this: you are spent with hours and hours of loneliness and expectations of what home is like, what home is going to be like for you when you come back. And those expectations are rarely met.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you've got all this joy of coming home built up, and it is the biggest letdown of your life. And
I didn't serve, but I lived overseas, and the reverse culture shock was by far worse than going over in the first place. So I can't even imagine if you throw combat on top of that.
The number of friends that I saw when they would get home, get off that bus, and nobody was there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things we tend to miss a lot, when you write fight scenes in your books and stuff like that, we tend to make these battles last so long. And that's another thing we mess up. All that stuff in your head, all the replays, all the seeing everything in slow motion, that happens later. Mm-hmm. Combat, a fire engagement's only, correct me if I'm wrong here, but 5 minutes at most of the time. A combat engagement is quick, done.
Yeah, it's and that 5 minutes could be spread over a full day.
Right. And I was a signaleer. Luckily, I was in a metal box playing with radios. I was not I'm not a combat vet. But
I was reconnaissance and target acquisition for depth fire artillery. But I say it doesn't matter if you was cleaning the kitchen in a combat zone. Mm-hmm. You still have that expectation of what home is going to be like.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a terrible letdown, and I don't want to stay on the point because it's my birthday, goddammit.
Well, one more thing about the point, though. I take these videos and I put them up on YouTube. So, Trevor, get me a link to the charity for that. Okay. And I'll put that up on YouTube as well so that it can get a little more exposure.
Yeah.
And you could do 22 push-ups a day on a TikTok.
Yep.
I can't, but you guys might be able to.
Yeah. One thing that I've often wondered about, like circling this talk back to writing, like in sci-fi, we do fight scenes, right?
Yeah.
One thing that not everyone deals with is the fact that you might be fighting and you're doing great or whatever, but it's always this happy-go-lucky thing, and no one ever is messed up by having to do these fight scenes. What do you guys think of that?
I think it's BS.
I think fight scenes can be added by adding a few things at the end of a fight scene. Immense fatigue. Mm-hmm. Immediate immense fatigue.
Yeah.
Tears. Well, you have to explain that the tears are the rapid loss of excitement. It's like an hormone shift for you.
Mm-hmm. It's an adrenaline letdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you can be running and you can be like,
yeah.
It really is a weird psychological experience.
And we don't see that very often. It's like, oh, we just did a fight scene, high five, we're awesome. And I don't think that that's how it is at all.
More and more recent military sci-fi is getting into this.
Yeah.
It's being done better, but I agree it hasn't been in the past.
Like I have one scene where like one of my main characters has an unhealthy adaptation. She carries a gun because it makes her feel stronger, and she goes to the shooting range with her ex-Marine friend he forces her to actually like practice, but he's always telling her you shouldn't carry that, like this pulling that thing out and using it is not something that you want to have to do. Like you think it makes you feel safe, but
you could also talk about the smell of skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
From all that adrenaline being in your system, you sweat differently. It's like a very almondy kind of smell.
Acrid, right?
It's and the smell of cordite is a very unique smell, and it sticks to your clothes. It's like it can be 2 days, 3 days later, you'll get that whiff of cordite, and it's sort of like it's not a panic experience, and it's certainly not a flashback, but it's sort of like like a kind of nauseating memory that's gone in a set. It's like, and it's gone, but it's there. And the smell of your skin, the taste of adrenaline in your mouth, obviously, and a lot of authors do mention the coppery taste of adrenaline. But the other thing is, so frigging tired all the time. It's a fatigue that you can't even imagine, and this affects people differently. But I wish people would mention how exhausting operations are. They are painfully exhausting. Your feet hurt, your back hurts. And one other thing, my favourite time when I did a lot of personal reflection when I was in the military and when I was overseas. There's a period at night when the sun's setting, and you're in your bivvy, your safe area, and the sweat's kind of there, but it's like you've no longer exerting the energy. Your backpack's off your shoulders. You've got no webbing on. Your weapon's clean. Your administration's done, and you've just got this few minutes where you're smoking a cigarette, you're drinking a cup of tea, and you've put some food in you, and just the warmth of food inside you. And there's a few minutes there at the end of every day where it's just like my feet aren't aching. My knees aren't hurting. It's just...
So it's the absence of negative stimuli. Does that make it feel good in comparison, or?
It lends itself to another moment when you come home. I'm sorry to get so deep here, but...
No, this is good stuff. Like we can change the topic, but I think we can probably use this stuff.
It's when you come home and you've slept and you're waking up naturally, like that. You've actually slept for a full. The first time I came back off my first tour, which was Northern Ireland, I slept for 16 hours, and it was just
okay.
It was just like waking up, and I was like, I'm not tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you've been sick for a long time, and then you're like, oh, this is what feeling well feels like.
This is normal.
The other thing,
guys, I hate to, but I gotta sign off.
All right.
I'm getting close.
I gotta go to sleep too.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the one last thing I would leave you with is, when you've, I'll keep this as clean. In the winter when you was younger and you'd been making love and then you've got to get dressed and go home, how nice it feels to wear clothes. Like, warm feeling, get clothes against your skin when you're going out. You know that feeling?
Yeah.
Imagine what it's like waking up in clean sheets and you can feel cool air on your skin. And sun shining through the window, and you haven't got to crawl. You can actually stand up straight and feel the warmth of the sun coming through a window on bare skin. and you've got up out of clean sheets, and you don't smell. you don't have an odor about you.
Yeah.
I think that is probably one of the nicest feelings I can ever remember from.
Wow.
Those visceral details, like
yeah.
I'm not really writing a lot of combat right now, but I will remember this.
And if a good writer writes them moments of afterwards, it makes the during more impactful.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to jack you live, but I thought.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Well, and
when we do lives, we talk about anything that comes around through us or our viewers ask us about.
Yeah.
Night, Gail.
Red. Well,
Night, Gail.
Every veteran has red eyes.
Yeah.
While you're serving, your eyes are red.
Well, and like I said, I wasn't combat. I was SIGO. I sat in my steel box, but you hear all this stuff, and you're jacked in sometimes, and listening to what's going on out in the field because, well, sitting in a steel box gets dull, and you hear what's happening in real time, and you're like, that's no fun either. I'm just,
Yeah, the word of engines on a radio, unique sound. No one else will ever know that unless you've served.
Or sitting in your steel box, just waiting for that mortar to hit your box and going, am I the target today?
And also, there's 3 words that any radio operator will know. I was a flaggy for a recon unit, right? But there's a word that takes you out of the world for a moment, and it gives you a full turn, but your head stays where it is. It's like one of them things where you spin all the way around. But your head stays in the same place, and that's the 3-word contact word out. It just, your world stops for a second. It's just like, is it me?
Yeah.
It's like, where? Another thing as well is the moment of the abnormal in the normal, and this, you can actually see evidence of this if you go back and watch different incidents of attacks by nasty people. There's a moment, and you see it as well. Look at a kid fall over. This is where you see the moment of realization, or when you see a kid who's just had something taken off him. And it happens with adults as well. It's the moment of the abnormal in the normal. And it's like, you're jogging down the street and you hear, and people go. And then they realize what they just heard. So there's like that 2 seconds of when the normal.
Your brain can't categorize it yet.
Yeah. And then you realize you're in a new normal, and that normal that you knew 2 seconds ago will never exist again.
Yep.
And it happens like that. It's like, boom, ba-dum, bump. So
all right, let's get off this. This is your birthday, so let's get off military service.
Yeah.
But I love what you were describing there. Not that it happened to you, not that it happened to anyone, but the fact that it gives us a real perspective.
Rain the second day, it was horrible.
Well, we do no one a service when we write fiction that glorifies things that are not like things that should be glorified, right? Like getting those details and the difficult parts in the fiction.
Well, let's be like, we're all writers here, right? And I once had to ask my wife, "Hon, what does an orgasm feel like for a woman?" And it was the most embarrassing question I've ever asked from my wife, right? And she looked at me and she's like, "I don't know, I'll let you know." And that's my wife. That's humor, right? But
you need to talk to spicy authors, because
I've got
threads about this.
In my friends list, I probably got 100 spicy authors. If you need some advice,
well, it wasn't a spicy book. It was just sort of like
no, but they know. Like,
yeah, Well, I'd ask my wife because, I know she's been through that. So I thought I'll ask.
At least you thought.
Yeah. No, she actually what the body feels like the next day, right?
Yeah.
And questions, you get an understanding, right? And I think the best being a writer, we are the last of the great explorers. Because we have found this way, this badge of honor that we can use, that we can explore each other in a way that's, we can explore by asking questions. And we suddenly have this, we are the first generation of writers to have this wealth of human contact right at the end of our phones, right? So I think I use all that to write about 200 years ago. But
well, I want to say thank you
yeah.
as, a female who is tired of having men write bad female characters and make up things when it comes to female experiences. Bravo to you for actually doing some research.
Well, it came to me because I was writing a bit once, and I was saying how the woman knew she was attractive. And I said she knew she had firm breasts, right?
Oh yeah, no, that's not how women think.
And that's what my wife said. She said women never think of themselves as firm. They think of a nice, pretty, or they feel comfortable and proud.
Yeah, we don't think like that.
Would never. And I was like, but why wouldn't you? Because and she's like, because that lasts for about 5 years of our lives. The shape lasts forever, And I'm like, okay.
But yeah, even more than that, like that's a very like masculine way to describe a woman thinking that she's attractive. It's more about like I feel like I'm attractive because of the way I like my hips move, or like that's more of how women would think about that, I think.
Yeah, and it's like, well, that was one thing I asked, and my wife says, go ask other people as well what they feel like, when I was talking. And the one question that came back from like 80% of the women I asked, which you could have knocked me over with a feather when they said this, was the first night you've ever slept with someone, how does it feel immediately after? And they're a bit insecure. And it just kept coming back over and over again. Like, what do you mean? Well, did we do it right? Did we, like...
Oh yeah.
Is he now? Is he? You know what I mean?
That's the thing.
Yeah, and it's like that insecurity, and it's like, and I wrote the chapter using that as the thing. Like when I'm talking, because I thought it was going to be more about what was happening when she was happening, right? And everyone says no, the way you described it afterwards. And I now have a review that says Monty does women very well.
Yeah.
Well,
because those things are true, like especially if it's a new relationship and you care, like like it's the anxiety afterwards where you capture like the feminine experience.
Yeah, and it so like you can talk about this happening to one group of people and this happening to another, but I've gone out there and I've said to old people, how does it feel when young people tell you what to do? And there's like, they describe the uselessness of having to ask for help.
Yeah.
And I was with that because when I lost my eyesight, it was that was the hardest thing I had to do was ask for help. I'd gone. I was a soldier, then I was a university student, and then I was blind. It was like, so it was. But just asking how they feel, and you'll find that people want to tell you. And I'll just tell you this. I have this book that's in my drawer here that I never ever, I've got 2 books that I pull out occasionally and just work on them, and they'll probably never be finished, but they cure writer's block for me, right? And one of them is called Con Cops, and it's about a group of nerds who form an agency where they find stuff that people want. Like they want that autographed picture of Adam West.
Okay.
or they want that issue number 141 of Marvel. Incredible.
Okay.
And these are people who go out and find it, but they also work for museums because museums want to replace stuff that got damaged. And one day I thought, when does a comic book become art? Who can I and who would deal about that? So I'm on the internet and I'm going like this. And the FBI have a department called the Art and Cultural Theft Team. And I said, I'll call them. And I called and I said, look, I've got a few questions I want to ask you. I'm an author and I want to write a story that has involvement where a consultant consults for the Arts and Cultural Theft Team. Mm-hmm. And they, oh, that's great. We need some public relations.
Right.
Went, hold on, I never promised that. But and they said, yeah, we could help you with that. And I says, well, you know, if a comic book is stolen from a museum, well, all thefts from museums in the United States fall under our jurisdiction. I said, oh, okay then. And is there a value on that? And they said, well, any theft of art over $2,000 falls under our jurisdiction. I said, $2,000? I said, yeah, anything that's considered art over $2,000. And I said, how do you know it's art? Like, what's the definition of it? And they said, anything that has been sold because of an emotional response to a creation is considered art. And it's just down to us finding about the case. I've got a few more questions for you then. Hour and a half I was on the phone to an FBI agent.
Most people want to tell you about their job. Like, yeah. It's shocking, but people like to talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I actually found out because I said, would you use a consultant? And they said 90% of our staff is consultants.
Okay.
Oh, Monty, I do want to go ahead and say, if you're not part of our Discord yet, are you?
I don't use Discord because of my visual impairment, mate. Mm-hmm. It's very use Discord with all the boxes in there.
It makes sense. Never mind then. Forget I said it.
Now, I think I need to get going. I have writing that I need to do.
But I'm going to have to call this quick too. But I think what he's getting at is, Monty, you're welcome to join us anytime.
Okay, yes. I will do. And if I find a way I can use Discord with it being a bit more clearer, I certainly will, because this has been a lovely chat tonight, guys.
Yeah. Well, every day, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
And if you'll see my post now that we're friends on this account. Okay. And you should get a notification with the where you can just auto add it to your calendar too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, see y'all.
Hey, have a great night, everyone. Thank you very much. Great conversation. Tons of likes and stuff came in today. I'll give you the numbers through Discord in a little bit.
10-4.
What does that mean? Do because I've only seen like a max of like 13 people on here. How is there so many likes?
So people just sit there and keep hitting the button.
Oh.
So if you could sit, it gives some ranking. It does not go into your profile likes.
Right.
So it doesn't like add to your other ones. But when you get so many likes going live, that gives your lives more ranking in the algorithm for where it gets shown to people. So when they're flipping through the lives, because I got 8.4K likes today, that will make that algorithm actually find us more.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why you see a lot of influencers going, tap that screen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
That they want the taps because double tapping the screen sends, and people can send like 100 likes in 20 seconds.
Yeah, they could spam those things. Like I got the first 1K in like 15 seconds or something like that. That was, pretty amazing. Yeah, you all got likes as well throughout this. So I know people were clicking on your images. To give the individual people in boxes, they have to click on the pictures. But if they click down in the text, it's the host.
You see, I just got us to 8,500 then while we were talking about it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
All right. Well,
Great
thank
night.
you guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good night.